So yesterday, from the time that I'm recording this video, February 8th, for those of you who want to keep track of the exact date, I ended up doing what I normally do in the morning on a weekday. Woke up at about 8 a.m. to walk my fiance to where she gets on her way to work, make sure she's safe, and all of that. I ended up returning to my apartment at around 8:40 in the morning, and because I have a weirdo nervous tic, I started clicking the lock button on my car, the little key fob, like I normally do, and I didn't hear the beep back. Now, as somebody who covers crime on this channel constantly, I've covered it from all different angles, and that includes car thefts, carjackings, and all that, you would think at that moment in time I would know exactly what to do. But it turns out I really didn't. I did all the things, the normal things that normal people do in those situations. I walked over to my space, realized that my car wasn't there, immediately started checking if I parked it the next block over, walked all the way up and down, not letting it set in that what actually happened. In fact, I even went back into my apartment and ran my license plate through the New York City ticketing system to see if I received a bunch of parking tickets that I never knew about, even though I check this constantly because New York City tickets the hell out of you, just to make sure that my car was actually not stolen, that maybe it was towed or whatever, and ultimately it ended up setting in that the vehicle was stolen. So you call the police, they of course show up an hour later, they ask you the same questions, they make you file the report, you have to describe everything in detail, they ask you a bunch of questions like if you let somebody drive the car, or maybe you're doing like insurance fraud or whatever, and then eventually a detective came and asked the same questions, and he made sure to tell me that if there were any updates, like, somebody using my E-ZPass, because I found out that somebody used my E-ZPass at 3:30 in the morning, that I should call his personal cell number or this landline, and that information will be incorporated into the investigation. Now, this is devastating, and it's devastating for me even though I make more money on average than a lot of the victims of crime that I typically talk about. On this channel, we have made it clear that we know the truth that crime drives poverty, not the other way around, but I feel like I have a greater understanding of this now because even though I make more money, like I said, than the average person I will talk about, is financially devastating and borderline ruinous because they caught me at the perfect time for this to have the maximum impact. You see, right now, I moved to a new apartment, and the reason I did that is so that I could have a bigger, larger studio space, which, by the way, I'm still working on for you guys out there in the audience to make this the best possible studio space, and this is a big financial commitment. I'm also getting married in the year 2024, so I had actually agreed to all of the contracts with the vendors, put in the deposits, so I'm on the hook for a good amount of money for those wedding vendors going into this year, and of course, this theft occurred after I made those financial commitments. On top of that, we're approaching the month of April, and unlike you guys who get withholding from your paycheck, I'm a 1099 worker, which means that I gotta file taxes in the month of April and pay a whole year's worth of taxes at the same time. Now, I'm not pleading poverty or anything like that. I made all of these commitments, and I'm pretty sure I will be able to survive the loss of my car. But the thing is, the used car market is significantly up. Even if I get some version of the value of my car, if it's not discovered, I will have to shop in that market with just whatever money that they gave me. This is a $20,000 hit to me, by the way. That's what I paid for that vehicle used. It was a Honda, nothing fancy, but buying a Honda of similar quality, similar mileage to what I had is minimum $25,000, and that's with a bunch of features being removed. And that's even if I went for the same year based on what I've been looking at in this market right now. So based on that and based on my current situation, I genuinely need my vehicle to be returned to me for me to be okay, and I have no confidence that the NYPD are actually going to be able to find it for me. I have no confidence that it's not in a million pieces right now being sold as parts, because the investigation does not seem like it's progressing, and I know it's only been one day, but a good indicator of the fact that I don't think this is going to go anywhere is that my E-ZPass was actually used multiple times later that day after the detective told me that I should call him and tell him if anything like that was going to occur, because that could help the investigation. And I called the cell phone. Of course, it went straight to voicemail. Still hasn't called me back as of right now, as of the time that I'm recording this video, which is the next day. And I called the landline, somebody picked up and they said, well, you can call and you can give me that information. But the thing is, we don't put in car thefts into our system and assign an investigator until the very next day. So we're not actually gonna look into that tip for you. If they're using your E-ZPass all over town today and we could potentially find the vehicle and you alert us to this, we're not gonna do anything about that. And he essentially rushed me off the phone. Now, to be clear, they put my plate in their like alarm system. So if a cop sees it or whatever, they are to pull over the car and all that. But the fact of the matter is, they already lied to me, and that is incredibly frustrating, especially when you're dealing with insurance and all these other disasters, and you don't know what you're actually going to do. And that's the thing. I deal with this with all of you guys. The fact that you guys support this channel, the fact that you guys have allowed me to make a living makes this blow significantly easier. If you're somebody who's even like regular, ordinary middle class or working poor or whatever, and a situation like this happens to you, it's absolutely devastating. There's no possible way I can imagine you getting through this if you don't have the savings that I have, if you don't have the network of support that I have, if you don't make the income that I have, or at least a reasonably good income, because it's a significant shock. It's a significant disaster. And the thing is, I tell you guys on this channel, or I've told you in the past, that I'm not somebody who grew up poor. I hate when people overestimate the struggles that they had to go through, but for a large portion of my life, I was broke. I was never under the poverty line as far as I know, maybe when I was a little kid or anything like that. But I was always in that group of Americans where you work enough where you don't qualify for any kind of assistance growing up, and you end up not having enough to pay your day-to-day bills. And one of the great fears that you live when you're in that range of American is that a disaster will strike, and that disaster will be ruinous for your family. And I had experienced these kind of disasters throughout my life growing up. I mean, you guys know I was actually wrongfully arrested at age 12. My mom had to put up the money for the lawyer in order to cover that, just so I could be found not guilty in that particular instance, even though the case made no sense at all whatsoever. At 12 years old, I was arrested and charged with legitimately walking into a group of 14 to 16-year-olds, about 8 of them, punching one of them in the face and robbing all of them. Obviously, I did not do that. Obviously, I was not capable of doing that, or maybe that's just what I want you to think. But that's what they actually charged me with, and that went all the way to trial. And there's a whole bunch of circumstances behind that. But the point is, that was devastating for the family. I actually got thrown out of the place that I was living. My whole family did at that very time in the snow. We also had to find an apartment. And it seemed like for years and years and years, honestly, up until this channel became successful, became something that I could rely on, that's how I would live my life. And that's really my big takeaway from this particular instance, because, you know, I want punishments for criminals. I want them to have a deterring effect. I want people who steal cars to face consequences, who rob people on the street and all that. But the thing is, I can forgive the car. I can forgive that being stolen from me. I mean, I'm not going to. I love that car, and I definitely value it more than the Aladdin that stole it from me, and I wish harm upon him and upon his family, and I'm hoping for the opportunity to use my platform to name and shame this individual and whatever criminals ended up helping him along the way. But that is a piece of property. It's something that can be forgiven. But what I can't forgive is that for the first time in years, I felt that same stress, that same insecurity, that same vulnerability that I felt throughout my whole entire life up until I was successful on this channel, that this disaster would be a game-breaking situation, that this disaster would harm me and I would not be able to recover from it. And I know it's just a bunch of different circumstances that all came together for this to come to a head. But this is what your average American feels when they're victimized, when they get their car stolen, when they end up having to deal with the consequences of a situation like this. Like, I had full insurance coverage, and even getting the rental car was an absolute disaster. They didn't make the reservation for the correct day. The person was trying to upsell me, like, I want a nicer car to drive around on while I'm hoping that mine will be returned. It was just nonsensical. It took well over an hour, and all of these different stresses impact me to a certain degree, and they definitely hurt, and I'm definitely concerned about it. But again, your regular, ordinary American, I don't even know how they recover from something like this. Like, we did a video where we talked about one of the victims of the Kia Boys in that documentary. It was a woman, and she was driving a really crappy car after the fact. And I understand how she ended up with that, because if you get the diminished value of your vehicle, what it's worth at the time, you're not necessarily going to be able to buy a similar level of vehicle. You might have to have a significant downgrade. I mean, one of the things that my insurance company warned me about, and by the way, the rental car company warned me about, is that even though my policy says that my rental car through the duration of this, which by the way is about 20 days that the cops have to find it before they deem that the car is a financial loss and then offer me a settlement, is completely covered, is the fact that I am likely, and very likely by the way, to have to end up paying some kind of additional charges, some kind of money out of pocket for this particular rental in order to make sure that I actually am able to have it. In fact, I had to put up a $300 deposit, which again, I was able to cover, but that is something, or a deposit for something that is supposed to be covered and offered as a perk of my insurance, just in case my car gets stolen, and already $300 deposit, plus the promise of additional charges, not to mention all the other upselling. And again, the likelihood that they're going to find my vehicle, which I was able to detect through my E-ZPass going into the Bronx, and it's probably been chopped up already, is not high. But the only thing that is going to save me from a huge financial hit is that vehicle being returned to me in reasonable condition. Now, my insurance says minus the freaking, whatever the deductible, that they're going to cover the damages, they're going to cover the repairs and all that. But the thing is, it's just not something that I expected to deal with. And I know a lot of people don't expect to deal with this, to be victimized by criminals. And again, it's just devastating to the people that have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. So from now on, anytime I'm thinking about or reacting to people who decide that they want to run defense for the criminal, to talk about the sad, sad lives of the criminal or anything like that, I'm going to be a little bit harsher. If I would have recorded this video yesterday, honestly, I would have been significantly more harsh than I am being right now, having like a full day to process and rationalize and all that, because I have no sympathy for these people. Even more so, 10x I've been amplified in my hatred of the criminal, because what they do for instant gratification, what they do for a small amount of profit, is ruinous to the people that they impact. It's ruinous to the people who have to deal with the consequences of this. I mean, all the time people will say, oh, well, they're in poverty and all that. You know why they're in poverty? Because rather than going out and getting a job and being productive in their life, they're out there stealing cars from good, kind-hearted Americans that actually struggle to make the payments, or scumbags like me, but still, I don't deserve it. You shouldn't have stolen my car. So yeah, my car was stolen. I'm pissed about it. It was absolutely devastating, but I am fortunate in the way that I have you guys out there in the audience. I have the people that support me. I have the people who watch my videos, who allowed me to make this into a job to soften the blow. So I just want to say I appreciate everybody who's reached out to me, other YouTubers and all that. I've appreciated those of you in the audience who've reached out to me. I've also appreciated people who have been making the most hilarious jokes in response to my Twitter post about how the criminal is going grocery shopping. By the way, I was actually going to go grocery shopping that day. That's my plan for the day. I even had my grocery bags in the vehicle. So they stole my damn grocery bags. Those bastards. I hate them for that. But yeah, it could be worse. It could be significantly worse, but you guys make it reasonably okay to deal with this kind of situation. That being said, I will offer $10 billion to anybody who brings them, dead or alive, to justice. That's what I want. Also, I don't have $10 billion, so this is clearly a fake offer. So yeah, I will update you guys as new info comes in. I'm hoping that these guys actually get caught. I'm hoping they get arrested. I'm hoping that I recover my vehicle, not to mention the property in the vehicle, but I'm not very optimistic about it, and it absolutely sucks. But hey, that's my story. That's what happened. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below and all that. Also, there's no GoFundMe or GiveSendGo or anything like that. I'm not crowdfunding off of this, so this is not a give me money or anything like that. It's just sharing what's happening, telling you about getting your car stolen. So if anybody tries to scam you in the comments, do not donate to that thing. It doesn't seem like it's legit. But yeah, as usual, if you like this video, then show me by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about my own car getting stolen. Till next time.